Welcome to Safety Net. My name is Scott Borden. I'm the campus police chief at the University of Rio Grande. This is a show that we talk about safety for the not only the area of Rio Grande, but some statewide issues and also some nationwide issues. With me today is Lieutenant Barry Call, the post commander of the Gallipolis Post. His area also covers Meigs County. Also with me is a special guest, Trooper Matt Atwood, assigned out of the Criminal Patrol Unit out of Jackson. He is a K-9 officer, and his K-9 officer, Buckeye, is with him today. And I think it'll be interesting to people to hear how someone decides to become a K-9 officer, how the training is involved in becoming a K-9 officer, how much upkeep and work it is to be a K-9 officer, and some of the aspects about how he goes about his work on detecting and locating illegal narcotics, not only in cars and vehicles, but other places. But first of all, I'd like to give Lieutenant Call an opportunity to talk about anything that's going on around the Gallipolis Post and the Meigs area, any programs you're coming up. Being former Highway Patrol, I understand that you had a fatal-free Labor Day weekend, which is just a glorious thing for any post and any community.
Yes, that's correct, Chief. We had a 4-day holiday reporting period over the Labor Day weekend. We didn't have any fatality accidents. We did remove 15 impaired drivers from the highway, made over 700 traffic stops, and took enforcement or issued citations on 400 of those. So it was a very successful holiday. You know, those holiday weekends, they bring in a lot of travel through the area. It's not just focus on the local people in Gallier County or Meigs County. It's a bigger focus on the bigger highways, the 4 lanes, people traveling to visit or vacation, so forth. But yeah, it was a very successful weekend for us. As far as going forward, we have been kind of prepared for the Halloween block party up in Athens here in October. I know it's several weeks away, but it's going to be here before you know it. And we have some other tactical squads we're going to run with adjacent posts as far as OVI enforcement and safety belt enforcement.
Well, that's the big deal. I mean, just the point you made about the holiday traffic. A lot of people feel that it's just on holiday weekends, the local things that you do, but you save all those lives, but the people traveling through to other states, Michigan, all Indiana, that they're traveling through this area, West Virginia, and maybe the OVI driver you stop, here, maybe, not get themselves in trouble or getting hurt in another state. Right. So it's an area thing. The block party, I mean, everybody knows that thing in Athens has potential for, a lot of OVI drivers, a lot of drug end up in that area, and that's, a good lead in to Trooper Matt Atwood. Like I said, he was a trooper at the Gallipolis Post, and I'll let him talk a little bit about his career, how it's gone thus far and how he got here. But he was a trooper at the Gallipolis Post, and then he transferred to the Criminal Patrol Unit out of Jackson. And just as a sort of a side note, his father-in-law was involved in law enforcement, was a Jackson County Sheriff's Deputy Auxiliary for more than several years. And when I first got here 8 years ago, he was a police officer here, and a very good campus police officer. Actually started the program of our community policing, and have always regretted the day that he left here. So, Matt, if you just sort of give us a little bit of history of your life, of how you got here and where you think you're going.
Sure, thanks for having me. Well, being a police officer in law enforcement has been a dream that I've had since a child. It was one of those childhood dreams that fortunately came true for me. When I reached the age of 21, which was necessary to get into the Highway Patrol, I applied, and I was fortunate enough to get the position. I went through the academy in 2014, and I graduated October of 2014, where I was stationed at the Gallipolis Post. I worked at the Gallipolis Post for about 3 years, and at that time there was a position open for a canine handler out of the Jackson district, which covers 10 counties here in southeast Ohio. When that position came open, it was something was always interested in. I'm a dog lover myself, So the canine portion was something I was very interested in, and then the drug interdiction part was something I had been invested in and excited about since I first got out of the academy and worked at Gallipolis. So once that position became open, I applied for that. After a long interview process, I was awarded that position. After a 10-week dog school, I was then certified with Mickey, and at that point we were put on the road in late November of this past year.
Tell us about Mickey. We can't see Mickey. Mickey is laying down by his right side there, and that is one of the great things about these canines is that Mickey will not probably, I'll say that and he will, but will stay there for as long as you tell him to stay there, and they're very well trained. So just sort of what type of dog he is, how old he is, how the training process was with him.
Sure. Mickey is about 2 years old. His birthday, I believe, is in July, mid-July. We had obtained him from a vendor I believe, here in Ohio, in central Ohio, but he had originally came from Germany. That's where he was born at. Once he got here and he was matched up with me for our canines, well, first of all, you can't see him, so he is a German Shepherd. We typically in the Highway Patrol have either German Shepherds or Belgian Malinois, and he is a Shepherd. But anyway, once we were paired together, we started the dog school. It's a long 10-week process of training the handler, not only the handler and the dog, each individually, but as a team. There's sometimes that in a dog school there will be dogs changed between handlers to find that right match. During the dog school, the obedience is the biggest part. I know Chief had mentioned that they will lay there, and they will. He's laid here since we've started, and he'll lay here till the end, hopefully. As long as he listens to that part. But during the dog school, the obedience is the biggest number one, because everything stems from that. He's trained in narcotics detection, tracking, article searches or evidence searches, building searches, area searches, and there's one more that I'm missing. It'll come to me. In the narcotics detection, he's trained to locate heroin, cocaine, marijuana, methamphetamine, and any derivatives from those drugs, such as crack cocaine is a derivative of cocaine.
I think, you know, we've been to several places already. They had a health fair here, and you know, you came over to our place before we came here, and you know, and people want to pet the dog. They see the dog and stuff. So maybe just a little bit, maybe you could say what their reaction is, you know, if you see it, whether it's a Rio Grande Village police officer, it's a sheriff, another state patrol, and they see a canine officer, what should people do prior to just going up and, you know, start petting them?
Right. That's sometimes a problem we do have. Typically the reaction that you get is when you walk the dog into a public place, everybody wants to pet, not everybody, but a lot of people want to pet him and approach him. But sometimes that can be a bad idea. They're trained to protect us, the handler, the officer, first and foremost. So if you approach quickly, he doesn't know your intentions, he doesn't know what you're trying to do, or if you're trying to cause harm to him. So the right thing to do is, if you want to pet the dog or maybe approach the dog or just talk to the handler, is talk to the handler. Ask him or her if you could pet the dog, how, you know, if that's an option. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not, because like I said, they're in a work mode. They know when they're at work, and like I said, they will protect their handler if they believe that they're being assaulted.
And we had talked a little bit earlier about what I think always interests people the most is how Mickey detects drugs. And I think it surprises people that when you tell them they're trying to find your toy or their toy. So if you would take him up to a car, if you could just sort of walk through what makes him, it's a pointer or a scratcher?
He is what's called a passive indicating dog, which means when he detects the odor of our narcotic that he's trained to detect, his final reaction is to sit, and that's his indication to let us know that there is an odor coming from whatever that is he's facing. There are other you had mentioned scratching, aggressive indicating dogs, which when they detect the odor, instead of sitting, they will scratch whatever the source is.
But maybe just a little bit, without giving any secrets away, of how you train him, and then when he gets to a car, when he finds a drug, unless something's changed since I've been gone, he's actually looking for his toy.
Yeah, that's correct. When we train them, when they are detecting that odor, they're looking for that odor. They believe it's a toy. For us, it's for me at least, it's a small orange rubber pipe about a foot long. We train them, we imprint the dogs on these odors that I'd mentioned before, such as heroin. We make the pipe smell like heroin. So in the initial stages of training, when we will say hide his toy that smells like heroin, his way of finding it is to sniff and search for it. So it's transitions the same once you're out of the dog school and in the real world. When I walk up to, say, sniff a car with Mickey, what his mindset is, what he's thinking he's looking for is he's just looking for his toy pipe. He doesn't realize he's looking for an illicit drug. And it's the same way for a school or a building when we're searching lockers or vehicles. That's what it is that toy that he's looking for.
Well, and that just fascinates people, and you've gone through this forever. Just walking across the parking lot, how many kids looked at us, and when you brought us over to the office, the secretary ran out and stuff. So it's a fascinating event whenever a canine dog is around, and the handler. And Barry, Matt obviously came out of the academy and came to your post, and you probably saw pretty quick he was squared away and sharp. And I don't know, maybe if you can maybe what you saw in Matt that because I know you would have had to support him for this position. That's and correct. What led you to support him and what you saw in him. And if you got people out there that someday are going to join the Highway Patrol, and maybe both of you start off with Barry, what you saw in Matt, and then Matt, maybe what made you guide yourself there, because there's people that are going to join the Highway Patrol, because you always hear people say, well, I want to become a police officer, I want to become a detective right away, or I want to become a canine officer right away. But you can't. You can't just join and become a detective. You can't just join and become a canine officer. You have to work yourself into a position, and he had to be one of your best, harder workers.
Yeah, and Matt was already at Galpis Post when I transferred back from Ironton, and it didn't take me long to figure out how hard of a worker Matt was, or still is. Matt was always getting into stuff. We're not talking just a little bit of dope here and there. Good traffic stops of larger quantities of drugs that were going into either Galpis or into Huntington or wherever. Matt is gifted in this aspect as far as law enforcement. To be a successful narcotics officer or canine handler, you kind of have a gift to gab. Talk to people and sift through their stories and look for other indicators. And Matt does an excellent job of doing that. And like I said, when I transferred back to Galpis, it didn't take me no time at all to figure out what kind of officer Mr. Atwood was, because he was a go-getter, and he, going forward, he's going to be a definite resource for our division and the community here in Gallia, and all district.
Well, not only the Highway Patrol, but any sheriff's department, police department, you have to have the support of your supervisors. So, Lieutenant Call had to have an intricate part in getting you to that next position. And just briefly, I know you mentioned a little bit earlier when what got you into it, but what really just the day you just decided, I want to try to be a canine officer? Was it other officers you saw canine, or just getting into the illegal drug interdiction? Or
I was early on when I was first out of the academy. I was I guess I would say that I was raised a little more naive. Came from a very good family in a good area, and I didn't know anything about drugs for the most part. I'd never even seen them. So when I first became a trooper, I didn't really know much, let alone what they looked like, or how to spot them or detect them or interdict them. So once I became a trooper, I got experience just doing the normal things a trooper would do, writing citations, traffic safety, slowing down traffic, and then that led to what the Highway Patrol says is looking beyond the stop. things that catch you after you gain experience stopping hundreds and hundreds of cars. You start to catch that one car that something's unusual about. They're behaving differently. The whole story is different, and that's how it leads into that interdiction of whatever the criminal act is. And most of the time, it is drugs at this day and age. So once you start to see that, it actually it was almost fun. It's fun when you catch someone. You're catching the bad guy. You find them doing something wrong. It's almost a drive. It's a hunt, and I'm a big hunter during my off time. So it's kind of two in the same, really. Hunting for, say, white-tailed deer is, oddly enough, is hunting for drug interdiction.
Sort of go into as much as you can a little bit, without, I will always say, without going too far, but people have an interest in when you can use a dog. For example, if another officer calls you, maybe some of the indicators that they need to have to call you to a scene. Are you just allowed? Question they always ask is, are you allowed to just walk up to the car and run your dog around it? But just sort of just a brief when you can use Mickey.
Yeah, a common thought is that we just walk our canines around random cars for no reason at all. When we walk our dogs around a car to perform a sniff, it's for a good reason, and that's not only with the highway patrol, that's with the sheriff's office and the university police department or village department. There's a reason that we're there with the canine to sniff that car, and it's because there's some type of behavior that's being exerted by the people in the car that leads us to believe that there's a narcotic in that car. And we can't just stop someone for a speed and wait 30 minutes for a canine to get there. That's just not, it's case law against that to protect the Fourth Amendment rights of the citizens. So we need to have those reasons, and it's for the better, that we don't walk dogs around every car. Now maybe we would find more things, that's possible, but it's for the betterment of the people.
Barry, I know a couple shows ago you talked about how proud you were of your patrol post, of how involved they are in the criminal patrol, and with your 20+ years, just maybe reiterate how involved your post is to make the Gallia, Meigs County area safe, and then maybe how the canines have enhanced that over the years, because when me and you first started, it wasn't a big deal, and it became a big deal. So
yeah. When I transferred back to Gallipolis back in 2016, Trooper Atwood was there, and there was already a cord there built. These guys, not just Matt, but there was other guys there that were really engaged in criminal patrol, removing not only drugs from the highway, but criminals, stolen goods, OVIs, and so forth. So, I hate to see Matt leave. He's one of your rising stars. He's leading our guys at the post and criminal patrol points. But after he left, it was just like next man up, and here comes another guy, and that just continues to spread at our post. Got a great group of guys, and Matt's part of that. Back when he was a trooper there, he helped build that core and that desire to get out and fight fight crime and remove the drugs and stuff from the highway. So. Couldn't be more proud of my guys. They continue to excel in all areas of our safety programs, whether it's criminal patrol, OVI enforcement, safety belts. I couldn't be any more prouder of my guys.
No, I mean they've, even when I was with the patrol, that was a post that always excelled in that. And as we talked about in some other shows, it's more. I mean, there's several phases to this. It's to intercede these drugs before they get to people, so they don't OD and they don't end up hurting themselves or becoming ill. But a lot of it too is these people that take these illegal drugs that your guys stop, and what Matt intercedes on, are also driving vehicles a lot more than when we first started. It was you know, always alcohol, maybe some prescription pills. Now you've got people that are on opiates that are driving vehicles and, you know, driving down the highway at 70 miles an hour. And
our drug driver arrest for 2018, 56% of our impaired drivers we've arrested for OVI have got some type of drug involvement in it, whether it's marijuana or heroin or something, you know. So that's, you know, back when I came on and you came on, you know, you didn't run into the drug driver. Mm-hmm. It was always alcohol, and back then, you know, of course, you know, heroin or meth wasn't near as prevalent what it is now. Back then, you got kind of excited when you got a guy who was maybe high on marijuana or something else, because it was just few and far between. Now it's not happening at 8 o'clock. It's happening at 6 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, in the middle of the afternoon. So and the Highway Patrol has put all of our officers through training so everybody is trained to notice other indicators other than not smelling alcohol, and it has definitely paid dividends for the division as well as other agencies other agencies in the state too. So it's a problem that it's not going to go away anytime soon. But I know it was law enforcement and Gallia County, Meigs County, across the whole state. All the agencies are engaged and realize the problem, and we're all doing the best we can to eliminate every little bit of narcotics being removed from the highway.
Matt, can you, without going into obviously too much information, but maybe some of the better interactions that Mickey has had, maybe some amounts and types of narcotics that they've got? I mean, without giving away too much detail that would harm anybody's reputation.
Yeah,
I guess.
Sure. Mickey's led to several smaller drug seizures that aren't as noteworthy. There have been a few within, I think, about a month ago. He was used to sniff a car that he did indicate on, and it led to the discovery of 1,000 oxycodone 30 milligram pills, which is in the ballpark of a $30,000 worth of pills that were coming from the Detroit area going to, I believe, Huntington, West Virginia. That would have not been seized if it wasn't for Mickey. There was also another one a few months prior to that where he was used to sniff a car that he indicated to. Inside of that car was, I believe, somewhere in the ballpark of $12,000 of drug proceeds. Also in the car happened to be a receipt from a storage unit in the Dayton area. So follow-up was done. A search warrant was obtained for the storage unit, and there was somewhere around a pound of methamphetamine, I believe half a pound of heroin, and some additional drug proceeds that were seized from that storage unit in the Dayton area, all from a traffic stop that stemmed in Jackson County. And again, that was one that fortunately we had Mickey, because if it wasn't for Mickey, that would have never occurred, and we wouldn't have gotten that off the street.
I think it's important to note on that particular stop there, it wasn't just the Highway Patrol. These guys, they got with I think it was the authorities over in Dayton, and
Yes.
and they executed search warrants. So it's not just one or two agencies doing this. You know, it's a collaboration of several agencies and task force all working together.
Absolutely.
No, that is, you know, as corny as it sounds, that's what it's all about. That's that interagency cooperation. And, you know, you probably didn't flatter yourself enough, or Mickey, or give enough credit, but when you talk about 100 Oxycontin, I mean, if those end up the wrong place, that's people ODing, that's relatives of people that, you know, end up either, you know, worst case ODing, sick, addicted.
Absolutely.
The meth that you talked about, so there's no, you know, they always talk about moral victories. There's moral victories in drug interdiction. So prescription pills is something that, you know, when I was in the district staff and would go around and observe the canine units and stuff, and it confuses a lot of people. A lot of people, it gets them in trouble is they've got a prescription and they don't carry them in the prescription bottles. Can you go into a little bit about the nuances between, you know, you get people have prescriptions, and I'm sure you've stopped people that they've got where the paper is stripped off, and maybe sort of guide some people that to not strip off. If you have a valid prescription, don't take off the name and all that stuff, because that then makes it illegal.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, if you are prescribed any kind of medication, especially a controlled substance, you want to leave that label on the bottle and keep the drug or medication itself in that original bottle you got from the pharmacy. If you put yourself in our shoes when we stop a vehicle and you are carrying a clear bottle or a clear baggie of felony pills that are killing people on the streets of not only Ohio but the entire country, well, that's a problem, because that shows that, you know, to us, that you don't own those pills. Maybe they were bought illegally. If they are yours, like I said, you need to keep them in that original prescription bottle, so you don't put yourself in that situation. For us, there's usually a pretty obvious determination we can make if they're yours or not, by if, for example, the 1,000 pills we found were located in a door panel of a car underneath the switches. If you were traveling down the road with your own personal medication, usually there's no more than 30 or so. They're going to be in your pill bottle. You have a valid reason for them, and we can even look it up in the Ohio Pharmacy Board's information to determine that they are yours. But when you've got 1,000 pills that are in a door panel that you have no valid reason for having, that's a pretty
good indicator.
It's kind of hard to explain.
It's hard to explain. I know several occasions I'd see that where someone would have 1 or 2 pills either in a pocket or a thing, and they'd have no prescription for it, but they would say they're holding it for it's their girlfriend's pills, it's
right.
their wife's pills, and that's just a path that's going to lead you to trouble. So,
right.
But Matt, I know your efforts, because we've got 2,400 students at this campus, and everything that you do, and Barry, everything that your guys that you've been proud of do to keep those drugs away from the kids at our college, so that they're not exposed to them, or so that our kids and our staff and our faculty can drive safely to and from their destinations, is very much appreciated. I know when we do these shows, that's brought up to me, and I know as being a former trooper, I'm very proud of what you guys do, and as a representative for University of Rio Grande, I'm very proud for what you guys do and appreciative.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And we appreciate you watching the show, and on behalf of Trooper Matt Atwood and Lieutenant Barry Call, my name is Scott Borden, the campus of University of Grande Police Chief. We thank you for watching.